I guess now there is this new movie. Is it called 1946 or
Yes, yeah.
something? Which making this argument that 1 Corinthians 6:9, this introduction of a translation homosexuals is a late translation, and it really has to do with prohibiting pederasty, sex with underage boys. That is one of the most ridiculous arguments I have ever come across. Now, not the issue about the translation homosexuals. I would agree that that is not the best translation of the Greek term, Arsenokoitai, which appears in 1 Corinthians 6:9. And that's because the term Arsenokoitai is more expansive than simply the question of sexual orientation. It's prohibiting, it's basically referring back to the Levitical prohibitions of man-male intercourse. You shall not lie with a male, which in the Greek translation of the Hebrew text would be arson, Hebrew zakar, and you shall not lie with a male as though lying with a woman. And the word there for lying is koite, and which means sexual lying with somebody, or it could even mean a bed that you can lay on, but also is used as this active sense for sexually lying with another. And the term arsenokoitai is extrapolated from the Greek or Septuagint translation of the Hebrew Bible passages that prohibit man-male intercourse, using those terms for male and lying. And literally what that term means is men who lie with a male. It uses I'm sorry for everyone to say this, but I can't avoid the Greek entirely here. The suffix implied is a masculine suffix. That's from which we get male. The term arsen from arsenokoitai means male. And the term koitai from koites is the personal occupational noun that's derived from the abstract noun koite, which means lying in those texts. What I'm getting at is if we want a literal rendering of that term in 1 Corinthians 6:9, we're going to render it in such a way as to recall the Levitical prohibitions, men who lie with a male. What's important about that term is it doesn't appear anywhere else in the Greco-Roman Mediterranean basin outside of Christian and Jewish circles. And the term as it's used in 1 Corinthians 6:9, that's our first occurrence anywhere. But most scholars recognize that Paul is probably using a term that exists in early Judaism at the time. We do see the abstract related term in Hebrew appear in the Talmud when it actually refers to the Levitical prohibitions of man-male intercourse. And it talks about mishkav sakor, lying with a male. And there it says, what does this prohibition mean? What does the man mean and what does the male mean when we look at these Levitical prohibitions? And they say, well, the male, the man obviously refers to an adult male, and a male can refer either to an underage boy or an adolescent, or it can refer to an adult male, which is exactly what the term male means, both in Hebrew and in Greek. So it's not limited by age. It's intended to be entirely encompassing to refer to any act of intercourse between a man and a male of any age, completely forbidden. And when we look at how Jewish writers interpreted the Levitical prohibitions, like, say, for example, the Jewish historian Josephus from the first century makes clear, says the law prohibits all intercourse between a man and a male, excepting as the only valid form of intercourse between a man and a female. So what is he prohibiting? He's not just prohibiting pederasty, he's prohibiting any sexual activity involving a male that does not then involve a female. In other words, completely all-inclusive. This is how Philo, first century Jewish philosopher, also interprets the Levitical prohibitions, and as well how he reads the Sodom text as well. In other words, if you want to look at, here's a term Paul used, clearly extrapolated from the Levitical prohibitions, which are as encompassing as possible, and which in the history of interpretation in ancient Israel and early Judaism are as broadly interpreted as possible. Any sexual intercourse involving a man and a male of any age is strictly prohibited. What's the alternative? The only acceptable alternative is intercourse between a man and a woman. Everything else is prohibited. So we know what the term means when Paul uses it in 1 Corinthians 6:9.